Well, kid, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here, man.
My pleasure. So you're joining us from New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, about an hour north of Boston.
Okay. I've never hunted in New Hampshire, but I have kept up with your governor's ridiculous antics, like trying to close bear seasons, and he did for a while. And then it's like, oh crap, we have too many bears, and so they reopened the bear season. Yeah, you guys have you have any bears around you?
Every once in a while they'll spot one. It makes the whole local news. Um, Most of the black bears are up north in the White Mountains, so we're about an hour south of the mountains. We're more closer to the coastline. But yeah,
Lots of good seafood
up there. This is a whole live free or die state.
Yeah.
So there's some independence, but it's got its control as well.
Yeah. Well, I was in Boston for a sea duck hunt back in January, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
You're literally hunting right there in Boston Harbor. I mean, you can see the entire skyline of the city, and you're shooting these sea ducks. It was a trip, I tell you what. Yeah.
I'm surprised Boston lets you do that.
Well, they did. Well, their governor made me hunt with a pump action shotgun. I literally couldn't take the gun that I take all the time duck hunting. Now I had to use an old pump. So that was interesting. But
no, our claim to fame here is we got the 6 Hour headquarters right down the road.
Oh, okay.
In fact, a guy named Adrian, he's from Germany. He was the designer of the 365. He actually bought my house. I've moved around quite a bit in this community, and he bought one of my houses. But yeah, he's his claim to fame is the design of the 365, which is very, very cool.
Right on. So did you always know that you wanted to be a pilot?
Yeah, I'm 51, so I grew up in the 80s. When the original Top Gun came out, a movie called The Right Stuff. You may or may not be familiar with that. It was like a double VHS, 3 hours and 15 minutes long, about Mercury 7, the original astronauts. So that was kind of a spark. Star Wars was just released, kind of gig, the first three. But I was a terrible student, horrible C's and D's, most of my grade school and high school careers. So I didn't think it was a possibility to become a pilot, let alone an astronaut. But I did have, and I ended up, long story, but I ended up getting recruited to run cross country. I was a long distance runner in high school. When I got recruited to run at the university here in the same town I grew up in. So that was my ticket into college. And then my freshman year, I was introduced to the ROTC program, which kind of set me on my path to becoming a fighter pilot.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I was born in 81. So, I mean, I do remember certainly Top Gun and all the Star Wars, but we didn't actually buy the Star Wars movies. We just recorded them off the TV. So, there was commercials, you had to fight through, but
oh yeah.
So in your 18 years in the Air Force, you logged over 400 combat hours, and part of that as the commanding officer of the 64th Aggressor Squadron, which sounds pretty aggressive. So what was that like? I mean,
so I actually served 20 years, a full career in the Air Force.
Okay.
And then,
we'll have to get on Wikipedia for that.
I know, man, you can't, there's so many things wrong with Wikipedia. It's like, if you're the source, you can't correct your own information. You have to have this like third party. I don't know. Anyways. But as a fighter pilot, I spent, 18 years of my 20-year career flying fighters. And there's different paths you can kind of take after you get through your initial pilot training and then your initial F-16 training based on the aircraft that I flew. And then you get to operational units, and they're scattered throughout the world, and they do different missions, but it's all combat related type missions. And then along the way, on a subjective level, you can kind of do different things. If you want to go to be a test pilot, like they fly at Edwards, that's a whole different program, a route. If you want to be a fighter weapons school, a weapons officer, which is like our version of Top Gun. Mm-hmm. If you want to be a Thunderbird, you can kind of do all these different aspects of the military. And so, you know, there's other things you can do after you do some of these operational, these combat experiences. You can go instruct, teach guys how to fly the F-16s. And then one of the programs that I was involved with was the Aggressor Squadron. So think of it as like Op 4, kind of the bad guys. So the whole purpose of this organization is to replicate the threat. So you're dedicating all your time and efforts and energies to learning the tactics of the Chinese, of the Russians, of, you know, all these potential enemies. Mm-hmm. And you hone those skills, and you fly an F-16 with certain limitations, and you help everyone else train. But there's only so many resources dedicated to that. One of the organizations of the Aggressors is in Las Vegas, Nellis Air Force Base. It's kind of the home of the fighter pilot. All things combat Air Force is kind of located out of Las Vegas, Area 51 to the north. And so there's big coalition exercises that they host there. They also have the Fighter Weapons School, or Air Force Weapons School, because it's not just fighters anymore. That's a 6-month program to become the Top Gun certification. So one of those Aggressor units is located out of Las Vegas. The other one's up in Alaska. Otherwise, if you're stationed, like I was stationed in Korea, I was stationed in Italy, you kind of gotta organically generate your own adversary support. So I would pretend to be a Russian or a Chinese pilot, fly their tactics to the best of my abilities, but I'm dumbing down my systems. And then the next day we'd swap roles, and I would train the way I'm supposed to train, and use my wingman as the threat.
Okay.
So that's the kind of purpose of the Aggressors. It originated back, following the Vietnam War, when we suffered some air-to-air losses. So we figured, hey, let's refocus our efforts and make sure that we can handle an air threat. So they came up with this fighter weapons school program. At the same time, they started the Aggressor program, kind of the 60s era, where we were doing some secret squirrel kind of stuff with enemy platforms called the Red Eagles. And then that kind of morphed and evolved into this Aggressor unit. Now they fly. I was the commander of that organization, and we flew F-16s. Now they're flying F-35s, a dumbed down version of the F-35, to give this higher capability threat, because our threats, our potential enemies in the future have these high-end threats. So we need to train against them.
Okay. Interesting. And so in the 400 combat hours, though, were actually deployed and shoot? Did you ever have any dogfights or anything like that? Doesn't seem like you hear we haven't been in an active war where we've actually been having air-to-air combat. It seems.
Yeah, the air threat is usually few and far between, but we still need to hone these skills for any potential conflict that we would face in the future, because God forbid we ever went to war with. I'm always using China as the example, but if they were to invade Taiwan and we're there to defend, it's going to be a rough one. There's going to be a lot of air-to-air engagements.
Yeah.
North Korea, same thing. If they came south and invaded Seoul in South Korea, they have a lot of capacity. They just don't have the capability. So as far as my experiences, throughout my 20-year career, it was mainly air to ground focused deployments, combat operations. So
dropping bombs, missiles.
Dropping bombs. And that's what's unique about the aircraft that I flew, the F-16. It was a multi-role, meaning it did more or less everything to a certain extent, versus you look at a F-15C or an F-22. Their primary focus is air-to-air superiority. They want to dominate and own the skies. So that's their focus. Whereas F-16s, we can do some air-to-air, but we can also do a lot of air-to-ground dropping bombs, depending on our configuration, what ammunition we're going to be carrying on the aircraft.
Mm-hmm. So Northern Watch, Southern Watch, Joint Guardian, Freedoms, Sentinel, Resolute Support. These were some of the operations you were involved in. And I haven't looked these up, so I don't know if we're talking about Iraq, Afghanistan. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so the first two you listed, Northern and Southern Watch, that was kind of a post-Gulf War. This was mid to late 90s, end of 2000s, before 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind that is we kind of designated these areas North and South Iraq based on, the evolution of politics and diplomacy. We designated these areas no-fly zones. They weren't allowed to fly in the northern section of Iraq and southern section. And this is out of Baghdad, out of Iraq. Mm-hmm. Again, post-Gulf War. And we would fly patrols on a daily basis. So we would deploy to either Kuwait and fly missions in the south out of there, or we deploy for 3 months, 6 months up to Incirlik, Turkey, and fly over Turkey and then hover on the north end of Iraq and then fly home. And those, nothing really happened. Every once in a while, we would find some AAA piece. They're moving closer and closer to our areas of operation. And we consider those threats. We designate them as targets and then take them out with bombs. But that was very rare that happened. Otherwise, they would take some of their, I don't remember what exact platforms, MiG-31s, it doesn't really matter, but fighter jets that they launch out of Baghdad and they skirt the line, get really, really close. And they're flying Mach 1.5, Mach 2 to kind of bait us into, you're just teasing us, playing mouse games with us. So that would happen. But long story short, there wasn't much going on until 9/11 kicked off. And then all shit broke loose all over. And so those later missions, Joint Guardian, that was actually out of Italy. So when we had the Kosovo conflict back in the late 90s, in 99, summer of 99, I arrived just at the tail end of that conflict, and we were flying patrols over Kosovo. Again, not much going on. And then 9/11 happened. And then we were doing deployments to Iraq, to Afghanistan. And that, I think you mentioned Freedom Sentinel and Resolute Support. Those were kind of counterinsurgency, going after terrorists in Afghanistan were those deployments.
Mm-hmm. So what did you enjoy the most?
Oh, man, what did I enjoy the most?
I mean, did you like dropping bombs? Was that a cool thing? Like, I mean, it sounds kind of morbid, but like,
it is morbid.
You're killing people, but at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do, is remove threats.
I had a very deep philosophical conversation with Sean Ryan on this one. We don't necessarily need to go there, but he, as far as what I enjoyed the most, I loved the camaraderie of that community, the fighter pilots, the bros. It's a work hard, play hard type mentality. And you're getting to do some really cool shit, flying F-16s, and the type of missions is very challenging to fly what's called basic fighter maneuvers, BFM. That's the fighting each other, very aggressive, pulling the intense G forces, 9 Gs, it's 9 times your body weight. So if your head weighs 10 pounds, it feels like 90 pounds under 9 G forces. So it's a workout. You're sweating, you're huffing and puffing. That's very intense. The challenge of working in close proximity to troops on the ground. It's called CAS, close air support. So doing that whole coordination, whether it's in simulation and training or in real world, you know, it can be very challenging, and that to me is satisfying to be able to do that type of coordination where, you know, you're up there, you're flying 350 to 400 knots. I don't know, 450 miles an hour, and you're up at 20,000 feet. So you're miles up there. You've got all this gear on. It's, you know, it's confined space. You have all these sensors in your cockpit. You have two little screens. They're 4-inch by 4-inch little screens. Very archaic. Think of like Atari type imagery.
Modern bass fishermen have 4 screens that are like the size of a computer monitor, and you guys are flying with like a Game Boy screen up there.
You guys are cheating, man. We need to figure out how to integrate some of those systems into the jets. They just can't handle the stress, I guess. I don't know, man. Yeah, some of the Gucci, I don't know, what are they? They're not depth finders, but they're just the fish cameras that they have.
Oh yeah, like forward-facing sonar and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's like my wife's tangent here. My wife's from upstate Minnesota. A lot of hunting and fishing up there, and we'd go walleye fishing, and we'd always have to go, you know, stop at Reed's, you know, tackle whatever, and look at the new equipment and check out what ways we can kind of cheat and figure out how to find fish better.
No, like I went fishing with a guide about a month ago, and he could literally tell you, because we were trying to catch 10-pounders. We were on this lake OHIV. It's like been on fire for the last few years. And he'd be like, "No, we're not going to cast at that one. That one's only 3 pounds." He could just look at the monitor. It just looks like a blob to me, but he's like, "No, we're after something bigger." And then when we would see a double digit, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's 10 pounds." You know, like it's crazy that you can tell not only that there's a bass there, but how big the dang thing is.
That correlates very similar to what we experience. You know, I fly a fighter jet and I look at a radar hit on this 4x4-inch screen, and it's like, you know, it's obvious. It's right there. People see it for the first time. They're like, "Oh my God, how the hell are you interpreting?" Or you look at a targeting pod and try to figure out the whole the IR picture on the screen to figure, "Oh yeah, it's a person inside of a building," and blah blah blah. You just get good at what you do. I mean, in similar fashion, fishing. I got a buddy who's he was on Wicked Tuna. He lives right up the street. He's full-time tuna.
Yeah, which one?
Okay, so you're gonna test me. It was the green boat. It was Wasabi.
Okay.
They were only on one season, but he takes me out tuna fishing when, you know, he does like contracting. He does for fun and for business, and he'll take me out as long as the seas aren't too rough, because I get motion sickness.
I forget what was his name. I had the captain of the Tuna.com on. That was super cool when the show first came out. I love that show.
It's a great show. And trying to dig up my other, I don't know if this is legal on your show to be able to share these.
Oh, sure.
This is one of my claims to fame. I don't know if you can even. Oh, the pixelated. Oh. It's not going to work.
I can still see it. Yeah. Salmon.
Yeah, that was fishing for king up in Alaska a couple years back.
Nice.
Gotta get back there, man. That was such a blast.
Yeah. I haven't. That's one place I have not been. Alaska. It's been on the bucket list for a long time. Just haven't pulled the trigger. But definitely plan on it for fishing, and I want to go hunting up there. But
do you do big game as well?
Oh yeah, everything, hunting, fishing, you name it, I'm in. You tell me when I need to be there and what weapon or what, you know, if I need to bring a fly rod or a regular rod, you just tell me. I'll show up. I might not be the best at any of it, but I want to do it all. So
but just do it all.
Yeah. So did you ever have any close calls? I mean, obviously you said, we weren't doing air-to-air combat, but when you're dropping these bombs, they're shooting. I'm assuming if they can, they're shooting at you.
Yeah, if they know you're there, and that's why you practice and hone these skills is because you want this element of surprise. And what gives us away is it's a 25,000-pound producing engine, and so it's loud. So you got to kind of stand off, but that makes it more challenging. The further you are away, the more difficult it is to make out and develop your target sets, to figure out exactly what you're looking at. Because if you can visualize, there's someone hunkered down because he's getting shot at in a village of all these mud huts, and you're trying to discern where the friendlies are located and where the threat is shooting from. And you want to be able to talk off references and distance of measures and work your way from the friendlies to the threat or vice versa, just so you don't, heaven forbid, cause any fratricide, and you make sure you take out the threat and you don't cause any collateral damage with the surrounding area. So you gotta stand off, but close enough where you can still do your job. And so back to your question about, was there any close calls? As soon as you are ready to employ, you've done the 9 line, you've gone through, A and B and C and all these checks and balances to verify, yes, and there's so many different ways that you do this. And then when it's time to employ, that's when you point at the target or get close enough where you can employ. And that's where you kind of burn your position. They hear it, they react, they do certain things, and you're trying to mitigate that by your tactics. And as soon as you do roll in, depending on who they are and what they're doing, they might engage you. In Afghanistan, I was going against this modified tank. It had a big old turret on top, but it was more like a Humvee type vehicle than a true tank. And it was just wreaking havoc into a village for no reason other than to kill Afghans. It was Al Qaeda, and as soon as they realized where we were, because it's kind of like up in the northeastern portion of Afghanistan, which is like higher terrain, kind of the southern part of the Himalayas. So this high altitude is very challenging to employ at, because you got all this terrain you got to worry about. And oh, by the way, you're at a higher altitude, so the jet doesn't perform as well.
Right.
So you end up getting closer than you really want to get. And as soon as they realized we were there, I'm looking at my screen, I see this turret start pointing and just boom, boom, and they start firing in our direction. So there's self-defense, time to employ against that threat. But it's more of the AAA.
That would have been satisfying, I think, watching that thing blow up.
Yeah.
When they're shooting at you.
Yeah. Especially when you can see men with big guns. I don't know what type of guns, KS-19s, and around that vehicle firing in the same direction that we are. And every third bullet's a tracer, so you can actually kind of tell what direction. So you're reacting based on the threat. But we had a couple close calls and some deployments, guys getting hit by AAA, just small arms, really small stuff. And you wouldn't even know it until you got back down. And, one dude was just flying low doing his thing. And then he lands and doing a walk around, checking out and make sure the equipment, cleaning your gun after you've been shooting on the range kind of thing. And there's a big old hole in one of his, they're called ventral fins. They're just stabilized platforms mounted on the aircraft. Just hole right through that. Had it been 6 inches higher, it would have hit the engine, and it's a single engine aircraft. And
yeah,
that was back in when ISIS was doing their thing with cages and burning and drowning people. So there was a lot of anger and fear at that time during the deployment. So flying a single engine aircraft in those type of scenarios, it's high anxiety, high stress, I guess, is all I'm trying to say.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I've never been shot at, but yeah, it seems like it would be very stressful, and to be doing it all at 400 plus miles per hour, that seems insane.
Yeah, I think the flying the aircraft's pretty easy. It's like any other skill set, as long as you have. Again, I terrible grades. I'm not an aeronautical engineer. I struggled big time, but I kind of got the hand-eye coordination thing down. And it's very intuitive aircraft or vehicle to operate, just because you think it. It's all fly-by-wire, so the stick only moves like literally that much. Mm-hmm. And you start thinking about, okay, I want to start, rolling left, rolling right. You just intuitively start doing that by the pressure you apply on the aircraft. And the more you practice, the more you gain experience, the easier it becomes. And then it becomes second nature. I flew for the Thunderbirds, doing air shows, demonstrations, and you have experience when you're hired for this position, but it's a different type of fighting. You're focused on employment. So it's more of the sensors you're focused in on versus the actual hand-eye coordination, stick and rudder type skills. Because when you fly in combat, my wingman, I want him like 2-3 miles away. I don't want him anywhere near me, because I don't want to have to worry too much on his position. So you never fly close. Thunderbirds, we're 3 feet apart, as close as 18 inches. And you're flying 500 miles an hour. You're very low to the ground because the crowd's got to see you. But you just get so much experience training and building those skill sets that it becomes second nature. And anyone could really get to that level if they wanted to, I guess is my point.
All right. So after your time in the Air Force, you did obviously the air shows, which I'm sure my father-in-law would love this, because he is obsessed with that stuff. He loves watching it. But then you went on to kind of shift towards space.
Yep.
And you did the first civilian space flight mission. You were at an organization, Shift 4, for a little while. And they did that first civilian space flight. What was that, back in early 2020s?
Yeah. So I retired from the military after 20 years in 2016, started working in that whole explanation of what an aggressor is. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine who I had met when I was on the Thunderbirds back in 2008, very successful entrepreneur, had a passion for aviation, taught himself how to fly, and worked up through the civilian ranks, no military background. He ended up starting a civilian demonstration team called the Black Diamond Jet Team. Well, he did that for a couple of years, and then they decided to take that program and create this commercial adversary organization. So I talked about there's 2 organizations, one in Vegas, one in Alaska, and otherwise you organically generate your own threat. Well, his business model was, hey, let me acquire all these fleets of aircraft from around the world that nobody's using anymore. Let me hire all these old crusty fighter pilots to fly them, and let's provide a cost-effective service to the military. A fraction of the cost. Operate a F-16, which is the cheapest, is around $25,000 an hour. He's like, hey, I'll charge the Air Force $5,000-$6,000 an hour. And so now you have all this capacity. He ended up acquiring over 100 fighter jets, and it's the world's largest privately owned fighter jet fleet in the world. And we did that so he started that in 2012, 13, built it up, and it really took off in 2016. And that's when I retired. And so I just, instead of doing airlines, I'm like, hey, I would love to help you out with this DROC and international and providing this adversary support as a government contractor. So we did that for about 5 years. So I worked with him for a long time, and then he sold that company. His primary business is called Shift 4, that payment processing. Has nothing to do with anything I've ever done. But since I was working with him and we had such a great relationship, he's like, hey, come work, over in Shift 4. So I did that for a couple months, but then that's when the conversations really started with SpaceX and Elon about what does commercial space look like in the coming years. And the timing worked out great. we ended up partnering with SpaceX on this program called Inspiration 4. And it was the first all-civilian mission to space. We started it in 2020, and then they ended up launching in 21. And I was the mission director. So the idea was we wanted to prove that anyone could go to space. So Jared was the commander, my buddy, Jared Isaacman, who is now, he's nominated to be the lead, the administrator for NASA, to run NASA by Trump. So
it seems a little safer maybe to go into space than it does to try to go explore the Titanic.
Oh, yes. Yes. I thought you were going to say fighter jets, but yeah, no. I would agree with you there.
No, because I remember reading about, well, both. I remember, reading, some very wealthy folks are going to try to go explore the Titanic wreckage. But I also remember it wasn't, I don't think they were too far apart, maybe even. But hearing about this mission, the civilian mission to space. And to me, at the time, I was just casually just observing, just reading headlines and being like, oh, that's really cool. But I didn't know much about it or who was involved or anything like that. So that was you, though.
Yeah. Well, I was that behind the scenes guy. So I was mission director, logistics, health coordination training, and you name it, the fundraising piece of it. It was a very accelerated, it was like 10 months program. It was really fast. And we did a Super Bowl commercial. We partnered with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and raised $250 million to support them. And we did a Super Bowl commercial to kick off a sweepstakes that would select the one of the seats. We gave one seat to St. Jude. And so the last seat was a kind of this entrepreneurship contest we had set up. Entrepreneurship is important to Jerry.
Yeah.
And so we had a documentary crew, follows around Netflix. It was called Countdown. It's a 5-part series. Explains everything, but kicked it off, announced it in February, selected the crew by the end of February. They immediately started training. And then 6 months later, they launched in September of 21, 3 days, low Earth orbit. This isn't just suborbital, go up in space and touch. It's you're going around and around for 3 days. And then they splash down. And during that process, we were having such a good time. Jared's like, hey, SpaceX, what's next? We have an idea of what commercial space is going to start looking like in the very near future. Can we come up with a developmental test program to kind of push the envelope and help solve some of these challenges in our quest to get back to the moon and Mars and beyond? And so that's where we came up with the Polaris program. Very similar. The analogous is program or Project Gemini from NASA. You have initial spaceflight with Mercury, Project Mercury, late 50s, let's just get to space. And then fast forward to the late 60s, early 70s, you got the Apollo program going to the moon. Well, in between there, in the 60s, over a 5-year period, 12 missions, was a developmental program trying to identify what challenges do we need to solve to get to the moon. They had to figure out a lot of things, how to dock in space, how to do a spacewalk. And so in a similar fashion, we came up with and mirrored that program as the Polaris program. So it's up to 3 missions. And the first one we did was Polaris Dawn. And so we had 4 main objectives for that mission.
If my brother's listening, he would say that no one ever actually went to the moon.
Dude, man, the whole Sean Ryan was released on Monday, and I've been reading some. I got to stop reading the comments. They think I'm this lying operative because the first question is like, "Hey, is the moon landing real?" I'm like, I'm associated with Polaris Dawn, which is partnered with SpaceX. I have nothing to do with NASA, and I don't know just as well as the next guy, but I believe we went. So I'm voicing my opinion, and
we've spent
people
hours
are like crazy about it.
We've literally duck hunting, and we're sitting there. There's no birds coming in, and somehow the conversation digresses into. He's like, "Well, did you know the moon landing is fake?" And I was like, "Okay, here we go," But he didn't sway me one way or the other. I tend to believe we probably did land on the moon. But I don't know. You don't have an opinion on it, so.
Oh, I have an opinion. I think it's real. I think we went to the moon. But we'll leave it at that, man, because that's unless you want the comments.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that think the world's flat too. I'm not gonna say if my brother's listening again, maybe.
I can wholeheartedly speak to that one. It is not flat.
And that's not your opinion. I mean, that's like
that is real world experience.
Total evidence. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Not flat. All right.
People are questioning like, oh, he didn't go to space. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So you went for, how long were you up there?
We were up there for 5 days. So we launched on September 10th, just 6 months ago, out of Cape Canaveral. All human spaceflight is out of Cape Canaveral. And we launch an inclination of 51.6 degrees, which more or less takes us right up the coastline. And then you more or less cross the Atlantic, you're in space, and you're orbiting. You're traveling 17,500 miles an hour. And you're seeing sunrises and sunsets. You're orbiting for us, it was a 106-minute orbit. Usually it's right around 90 minutes, hour and a half, depending on what altitude you go to. Obviously, if you go further, it's a longer way around. And so we went further than anyone's been in over 50 years. And to kind of put that in context, is space station's right around 420 kilometers. We went to 1408, so an extra 1,000 kilometers further. And we were up there for 5 days.
So why haven't we gone back to the moon? I guess is the obvious question.
Oh, man. Okay.
What's the snag here? We did it a long time ago. Why are we not just going up there kind of every once in a while just to check on stuff?
Here is kids' opinion, only my opinion. I think it's because it was something we accomplished, and now the shift is more onto low Earth orbit. Let's focus on science and research and exploring low Earth orbit, setting up a station, because it was just a vehicle going to and back. Let's build a station where we can do science and research, because we realize that there's a lot of benefit to doing these experiments in zero gravity. A lot of amazing technology has been developed under that type of environment, and we had 40 science and research experiments, and they're talking about how certain technology is going to be able to develop, a 3D printed organ in the future. So a lot of medical devices that have been developed. Our focus was mainly on, hey, what challenges does the human body face for these longer duration missions? So, we're up there for 5 days, and it's tough. 5 days, and Sonny and Butch just came back. They were up there for 268 days.
Right.
And it's zero gravity. We're built for 1G. We're built for this planet, and trying to function and operate under that type of environment is very challenging, because in a quick explanation, zero gravity, you're floating around. So you're not using your skeletal system, your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons like you normally would. In fact, you start off by just kind of bouncing off walls, overcorrecting for how you maneuver in the capsule. It's almost like this meditative state you want to get into, with just a slight push will, equal an opposite reaction. You're heading in the opposite direction. So it's almost like the less energy you use, the better you can function. Not to mention, you have this fluid shift. So again, you got the body, physiology, the fluids being pulled by gravity. Well, up there, it just kind of floats around inside your skin. Your organs move around. Your brain literally shifts inside your skull, inside the CSF fluid. And it's just all these things are make it very challenging, even after 5 days.
What's the bathroom situation like?
So that was kind of the joke of our programs, because I have an old man bladder. Man, you wear a diaper in the spacesuit. So for launch and recovery, you're in your spacesuit. For the spacewalk, you're wearing it's called a maximum absorbency garment. It's a defense.
I'm out on it. Just not interested
No?
in a diaper.
Oh man,
No.
dude, you get the outdoors, I guess. You'll pee off the side of a boat.
I will pee or there's this term we use sometimes called an aqua dump. Like if you're fishing and you just get off the side of the boat. You don't have to tell anyone you're doing it, but
I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's only in the spacesuit. As soon as you get to orbit and the atmosphere is safe to function, you have a pressurized system and everything's working great. You get out of your spacesuit and you're just wearing a fleece, sweatpants, comfortable garments to sleep in and function in and work in. It's only when you have critical phases of flight, which is the ascent, the descent, and then the spacewalk. Because there's no airlock, so you got to bring the entire capsule down to vacuum.
Okay. But so then when you're not wearing a diaper, you just sit on a toilet, or what do you?
No, yeah, well, there is a toilet. So it's literally a vacuum tube about that big around in diameter. And it's, I don't have a model or anything, but you have the side hatch and then you got the forward hatch, the two ways to exit and enter, translate into the vehicle. Right in between the forward hatch and the side hatch is the bathroom. It's just behind this panel, and it literally it's a vacuum. So you got a hose for the guys and a big round. I did not have to take a dump or anything, so I locked myself up for 5 days.
Yeah. Okay. Now that I would be okay with doing.
Really?
I don't, because I'm going to go, like, also a running joke. Like if we're going duck hunting, I'm taking a crap in the morning in the woods somewhere. Yeah. So it's every day, multiple times a day. As soon as the coffee hits, it's time to go. So I would have to stop myself up unless I was just going to do the space dump.
Yeah.
No. But that's
it never happened. It was a fear that kid would have to in space, but because similar to you, we climbed Mount Rainier. Mm-hmm. And I got to the summit, and it's cold up on the summit.
Oh yeah,
you gotta go. So I dropped trowel on the summit of Mount Rainier.
Yeah, that would be me too, for sure.
You got to haul everything out you bring. So haul in, haul out.
Yeah, I was reading. I've read a lot about Mount Everest, like just from a history perspective, and they had to like get the expeditioners to stop going to the bathroom on the trails because it just never goes away.
Yeah.
So now you have to pack in and pack out, right? It's like,
I hear base camp is a mess with trash and.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, well, that sounds awesome. And so, and what are you doing? What are you doing with it now? As far as in the from today and having done the mission and going forward, are you done?
Oh, what am I? So Jared's going through his confirmation to be NASA administrator. So that's his focus. Anything and all things Polaris program, because I mentioned it was up to 3 missions. The first one was Polaris Dawn. The second and third mission are kind of on pause. And the idea was the third mission was going to be the first crewed flight of Starship. And Starship is making the headlines. It's the next generation rocket. No humans ever flown on it. It's still going through testing. They're on flight test 9 now. And the third mission was going to be the first crewed flight. Jared was going to be the commander of that. And, we were all going to support those missions. But at this point, it's all pause. Right now, I'm just getting reacquainted with my family. I'm doing speaking. So I'm doing a lot of keynotes and motivational speaking and share my story and all my experiences with combat and things that I've learned and screwed up in life. That's kind of my life. Training. I spend a lot of time on the swim, bike, and run for Ironman triathlons.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But first, you got a degree in outdoor education.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if that has anything to do with like hunting or fishing, but but I'm interested. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people pursue a degree in wildlife management.
Yeah.
What is outdoor recreation?
Outdoor education is more or less experiential learning.
Education. Okay.
Education. Yeah. Everyone says recreation. It's fine. You can
We
actually
don't want to besmirch your illustrious degree here. So
you can get a PhD in outdoor education now. It's pretty crazy.
Okay.
I'm doing the commencement speech, which is very ironic with my grades. If they looked at my transcript, they'd probably think twice. At my alma mater, it just announced yesterday. So I'll be doing the commencement speech in May. But outdoor education is so if you look at traditional education, you sit in a lecture hall, you take notes, you memorize information, regurgitate in an exam. You may or may not apply that knowledge in the future. That environment was very challenging for me. I just didn't have motivation, couldn't pay attention. And then I came across my buddy was like, hey, come my freshman year, fall semester in college. He's like, hey, come with me to one of my outdoor education classes. No idea what it was. But I went, and when I went, it wasn't a classroom. We were all in a gymnasium gathering gear. And this was in the middle of the winter in December, and there's about 3 feet of snow on the ground. And the instructor starts talking, and come to find out, the instructor was a Navy SEAL for 20 years, David Lockett. And the task for the class that I was going to sit through and shadow was to build a Quincy. The idea was going to build an igloo out in the snow. Mm-hmm. And the class was called winter backpacking. And the idea is we're going to build the shelter, and then eventually for the final exam, it's going to be a 5 days up in the White Mountains in the middle of the winter. You build structures, you hike from point to point, kind of thing, orienteering.
It's like, training for that show alone.
Yeah,
I love that show.
But it was a blast, man. For Quincy, it's not an igloo. It's you dig down to the surface, you pile all the snow up into a big dome that allows it to settle in the same. What's the word I'm looking for? Consistency. Uh-huh. Versus, it freezes at different levels and moisture levels and all that. It makes some of it's fluffy, some of it's wet. And anyways, if you break it all up, it just kind of settles into this like cement. And then you dig an entryway. And then once you get into the dome, you're digging around, you leave about 4 to 6 inches for a wall. And then you get inside with a little propane fire, stove, camping stove, and you glaze the inside, heat it up, it glazes. And now it's just like this impenetrable structure. And it was just teaching us skill sets to build a winter shelter. It was such a blast. And so I signed up for this outdoor education program. And the whole purpose behind it is experiential learning. So all my classes were like winter mountaineering, whitewater rafting, Nordic skiing, scuba diving, advanced backpacking, top rope, rock climbing. And the idea
sounds fun.
It was a blast. I didn't sit in a classroom
especially
at all.
For someone who's like self-admitted a poor student,
Yeah.
Oh, get me out of the classroom, get me in the great outdoors.
So you're taught skill sets, very basic skill sets. You immediately go out into the field and apply them, and you're learning in the field. Think of like confidence courses, ropes courses, that type of environment. And then you come back and you debrief. What did you learn? What did you experience? And that's the idea behind outdoor education. We're great training for space because we did a lot of that experiential training. We climbed mountains. We were scuba diving. We were skydiving. So there was definitely some applicability training for space.
So as far as hunting or fishing goes, you showed us the picture of the salmon you caught in Alaska.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy any of that currently, or have plans to do more of it in the future?
I have, other than to go tuna off the coast of the Atlantic here with my buddy. We got that on the books as soon as it starts. I don't even think it's open right now. The haddock just opened up. But it doesn't start pumping until like June or July for tuna. I am fair weather, dabble. I will go anywhere and everywhere. I get invited, but it's few and far between. Like the moose tags up here is like once in a lifetime.
Oh yeah,
Maine and New Hampshire. In fact, my buddy missed the rocket launch. I invited him down for the actual launch, but he got his once in a lifetime tag for a moose up in Maine. So he chose wisely.
Yeah, I don't fault him for that. One bit. No, sorry, kid, about that. I'm gonna be up here chasing this bull moose.
It was a success.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
definitely worth it then.
Yeah.
So you like to kill yourself for fun. You've done 15 Ironman triathlons.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You had a background as a cross country runner.
Yep.
What part of talk about training a little bit and then nutrition as well, because I'm sure that's a huge part of this. I mean, we're not training for these things and then just being like, well, we're going to put whatever we want in our body, you know?
Yeah. It is considered the fourth discipline of triathlon. So swim, bike, run, that's always in that sequence. You swim first, you bike, and you run. I only do Ironmans at this point. And I usually do 1 to 2 a year. And the idea behind an Ironman, there's different distances. They talk about sprints, which can be any distance, but just shorter. Then they talk about Olympic distance, which is like a 2+ hour race. That's what they do in the Olympics. And then you got half Ironmans, which are called 70.3s. It's kilometers, or is it miles? 40. I can't remember now.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah. No, it's kilometers. 70.3 kilometer. My math. And then the Ironman. And so the Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim. It's a 112 mile bike, and it's a 26.2 mile run, a marathon. It started in the late 70s, early 80s in Hawaii. I think it was like guys were drinking, blowing up. Who's the most awesome athlete? Is it a runner, biker, or swimmer? And they all had the Honolulu Marathon. They had this bike race and this ocean swim. They said, let's combine them all and see who's the last man standing. And that kind of started the whole Ironman crave. And, you know, I was actually inspired, similar to Right Stuff and Top Gun, was watching the NBC broadcast, watching Julie Moss crawl to the finish line and seeing those very tear-jerking stories of triathletes. So fast forward, high school, state champ in running, recruited to run long distance at University of New Hampshire. So running was in my background. I was a lifeguard on Cape Cod down in Mass in high school or college. So I had a little bit of swimming, enough to be dangerous. And then, you know, I picked up biking along the way and started doing triathlons and done 16 of them. My quest is always just to sign up for one. I'm going to do Lake Black.
They have you only down for 15.
What?
Yeah.
No, I did one. Actually, we splashed down on September 15th. And I did Ironman Chattanooga 2 weeks later, the 28th, I think it was. Wow. It was painful.
Yeah.
Sure. But I qualified for the World Championship. So the idea is like Ironman has these qualifiers all over the world. This year, I'm going to do one in Lake Placid, New York in July. But the quest, the ultimate holy grail, is to go to the World Championships. They used to be in Kona, Hawaii, but now they split genders. One will be in Kona and the other one will be in Nice, France. And then the following year, they'll swap locations. It was a COVID thing that they switched up.
Well, what about the transgenders? Which one do they go to?
Oh, you're going to go there. I don't, yeah.
I know you're a father of 3, as am I, and that stuff makes me insane.
Yeah.
Like, if you have kids, I don't understand how there are lots of things we can be critical about regarding both parties, but the basic denial of biology is insane. It's absolutely insane. We've advanced women's rights for all these years, and then you're going to vote. They're like, and the funny thing is, it's the pro women people that are like, gotta let boys in girls sports. I'm like, wait, but I thought you were for women. So stupid. And my kids all play club sports, and you know what? Worse than if they were beating up my girls on the field. If you put them in their locker room, that's just like, what are we doing as a society? It's just if it hurts someone's feelings, guess what? That's 1% of the population. What it's doing is pissing off the rest of us. That we have to pretend that their mental illness is real. Like, I'm sorry. Anyway, I digress.
I've got a freshman at Northeastern who's a runner in the girls team. And then I have another junior female, and then a male. My boy is a freshman, and they're all runners. So thankfully, we've dodged that bullet in our school district, and it's not allowed in New Hampshire.
Good. Yeah.
But anyway,
so you want to qualify, or you did qualify to go? Are you going to Hawaii or France?
To go to France in September is the World Championships.
Okay.
But it's honestly, I just love the lifestyle. For me, it's about waking up and swim, bike, run. It's at this point, I'm anywhere from an hour to 3 hours a day. I do most of my riding indoors because it's still winter up here. So I have my trainer literally right here, big screen. And my wife and I run together. That's kind of our thing, our date morning kind of thing. And then I swim 2-3 times a week at the local pool. But it's more the lifestyle. If I don't, I'm ornery, I'm grumpy, kind of a jackass if I don't get the opportunity to work out.
I have a threefold mission statement for every man. And I don't know, you're 8 years older than me, and I don't know where the third prong starts to phase out. But for me to be happy, I have to do one of 3 things. I have to go hunting, go fishing, I have to exercise, or I have to have sex with my wife. So those are the 3. If I don't do one of those 3 things, you can say that was a bad day, and I'm probably pretty pissed off. If I can just do 1, great. If I can do 2, super day. The days where I actually get to do all 3, and that's hard because hunting generally involves leaving the house. So the third one with mom doesn't always work out. But like a little fishing trip to the pond by the house, you can knock them all 3 out, and then you're like, damn, that was the perfect day. Yeah. So I know how you feel because I get a little ornery too if I don't knock out one of those 3 things. Yeah. And the gym is the one that I think I feel like aggressive if I don't go and move some heavy stuff around. So yeah. And I'm a firm believer in the whole cold plunge thing too. So I got a cold plunge, and we try to eat healthy, organic. And is cryotherapy cheating, the cold plunge, do you think?
No.
I've gone to cryo. There's one by the house, and they
how often do you go? What is it?
I haven't been going lately. So not that anyone cares about me. We're supposed to talk about you, but I used to run a lot, like training for elk hunts. Yeah. 7 miles, no problem on a treadmill. And then I've got 2 degenerative discs in my back, and just the running. Ooh. I've gotten to the point where running, it's not impossible, but it's very uncomfortable. So now I'm more like elliptical. My wife has a Peloton. I'll run
low impact. Yeah.
But I can still lift weights. It's the impact that just is like the constant,
Have you tried different, like the high profile shoes like Hoka's?
No, I have. I wear Brooks, I guess, but now maybe I should get some Hoka's.
I'm a big fan of Hoka's, but
advertisement for Hoka here.
I have dodged the whole back issue. Other than F-16, there's a lot of compression on the spine with the G-forces.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I've dodged the bullet on knees and ankles and legs and backs for the running piece.
I've never had the issues with the lower body stuff, but no, I used to weigh, I think when I trained for my first elk hunt in 2015, I weighed 178, but I wasn't lifting weights. Now I weigh 210, and completely changed my physique, And I think somewhere in the middle would probably be the best.
Yeah. Gun or bow for elk?
Oh, I prefer a bow.
Do you?
But I don't. I shot this one with a bow, but I don't discriminate. Like I said, I'm a very average bow hunter.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can shoot anything with a rifle, right? But
You got to get up close and personal with the bow, right?
shot that one at 14 yards in the chest. It was great.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the highlights of
Did
certainly of my hunting
he know
career.
you were there?
Oh, yeah. He thought I mean, we were calling him, and
Yeah.
I was looking for a fight. You know, he just
Mm.
thought it was with
Wow.
another elk. So, yeah.
How quickly can you reload and shoot again if you miss?
With a bow, they don't ever give you a second shot. So
Really?
like, I mean, you could try.
Would it just take off, or would it rush you?
No, just take off. Like they're spooked at that. Once they realize that you're a human, they associate that with danger, and they're gone. You know,
Got it.
They're not giving you typically a second opportunity. Now with the rifle, you know, they might only run 50, 60 yards and turn around and look at you.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay, you got another chance. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But even with the rifle, usually you're very blessed if you get a second chance if you screw up the first opportunity on any type of hunting.
You have to pack it out and haul it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You're deep in the woods.
7 miles.
How many?
7.
Oof.
Yeah, but we cheated. I mean, we moved it about a mile and then called in pack horses. But still, it's an entire day just getting it cut up and on your back, and then move it to basically a trail where you could send the stable a GPS pin, say, hey, this is where it is.
How many people you hunt with? Is it usually
just me and a buddy?
You and a buddy?
Yeah. I've done a couple solo. Wife she's not a big fan of, you know, say driving to New Mexico or Colorado and then hiking into the mountains by yourself. Yeah. Before we had kids, I don't think she cared as much, but
there were a lot of, we just moved from Colorado, back in May. So whatever that is, 9 months ago. A lot of elk hunting there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm going, I just burned my mule deer points for Colorado. So I am going rifle deer hunting in Colorado this year.
What parts, or just all over?
Oh, we can't talk about that.
Oh, that's a secret. You can't say south. You can't even generalize.
No, I would say the unit. I think it's 85, 80. What is it? It's 2 units. It's pretty. I think it's 85, 81, 85, 83 maybe. Mm-hmm. People would know.
Your audience.
I don't care because I'm burning my points, and I don't know if I'll in my lifetime build enough more to go back to Colorado and do it again. You know, as far as
so you earn points. Yeah. How do you earn points?
Every year you just buy a preference point. So like say I want to hunt elk in Colorado, or I want to hunt deer, but this year I'm going to Wyoming. So then I just buy a point. And so, you know, I think I have 9 elk points in Colorado, and I had 9 mule deer points, and now they're, you know, I've spent my mule deer, so now I have to start over, right? But that's the game, is just collect points in all the western states, and then every year you're like, okay, this year I'm going to elk hunt there, and then I'll start building my points back up, and then next year I'm going to elk hunt over here and mix in an antelope hunt or a deer hunt or whatever.
How long will you be out there?
I usually hunt for a week. You know, I'm a flatlander from Texas, and usually maybe 9 days, day of travel each way, and then hunt for 7 days.
What do you like? Just bivouac or tent, or where do you sleep?
Anywhere. Like I've slept in the truck at the trailhead, but generally pack in a tent or carry entire camp on your back. Like there's times where you just pick up and move, and you're hunting with camp on your back, and that's a whole another level of training, like learning to shoot a bow with 45 to 50 pounds on your back. You know, it's very detailed.
Yeah. I've got a buddy who he lives up in Minnesota. He grew up with my wife. He does all the big game, like all over the world, like big cats and. Oh yeah, Pakistan to get some of the sheep, and he sends me crazy. He's gotten 3 grizzlies. One, he set the record for the season. I don't know how that all works, but it's big ass mounts, you know, standing straight up. It's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Grizzlies on the list. That's just one that's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, going back to fitness, like for me, hunting keeps me motivated, to stay in shape. I can't do all the things I want to do if I'm a fat slob eating potato chips and drinking beer on the couch. Now, I do like beer, and I like a little bourbon. But I'll tell you, the older I get, I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. So I'm thinking about just quitting. Like people might be like, "What?" People that have been in camp with me know that I like to have a good time.
Nobody likes to quit.
I don't know.
I was a Jack Daniels growing up, fighter pilot. That was the drink. And then I turned to old fashions because I started to get old. Now I can't even do the colored. Tito's is the only thing I can really tolerate at this point.
But so living this lifestyle, triathlons, like how often do you let yourself partake?
Oh, all the time. I'm not obsessed. I give it a lot of effort. It's just a lifestyle. I enjoy it. It's not like it's painful. I do enjoy the pain actually, of training and doing interval training. And I'm on this really cool program. It's what is it called? It's called TriDot. It's like this AI generated. Huh. You do all these tests and then you put out, hey, here's my race and date. And then AI generates your entire training plan. And it's all very high intensity kind of stuff. So I don't have to think about what I'm supposed to do. I just look at the calendar and go, okay, I got this run and this bike, and I'm 90%. I don't let that get in the way of life. Family takes priority. I'll just get up early and do it before the family activity. So it's not, and I eat what I want. I don't, other than high quality stuff, which we all should be focused in on doing. I like meat, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Right? I would say my diet is mostly like probably red meat 3 or 4 times a week, chicken, probably once, and then maybe fish once.
Yeah,
and
we got great.
You can put all of that in tacos, which is my favorite thing to eat.
I'm a burger guy.
I like burgers too.
My fallback is Shake Shack. Oh, love Shake Shack burgers.
Do you get it with a bun or do you get it like keto?
Bun. I tried the whole carb thing like years ago. What a joke. No, I need bread. We lived in Italy for 6 years, so there's no way I'd survive without the pasta and the bread.
Right. What so before a big race? I mean, I read some people still eat a bunch of pasta. No, you don't carb load before that.
There's only so much your body can absorb. There's no reason to obsess as long as you're not taking out and eating crap all the time. Yeah, I'll have something healthy, but it might be pizza or it might be pasta. But I used to obsess about the sport, but now I think I rely upon my experiences and I know what works and what doesn't. And as long as you, and then race day nutrition it's your body can only absorb so many carbs and calories. You do too much, you just sit in your gut and your blood now is working on digestion and impacts your ability. And if you don't need enough, now you're, hitting the wall.
So. As I get older, I've started to, and this was something I never thought about 3 years ago, certainly not 5 or 10 years ago, but brain health. And I mean, that's what, keeps everything going, really. So that's your CPU. So I'm starting to digest more information on, how to have a healthy, functioning, fully cognitive brain. Alcohol is not part of that equation, by the way.
Any techniques you pass along? Anything struck your fancy?
Well, yeah. So I was reading this book, and the author, he had 5 superfoods for brain health. You try to guess how many.
Oh my gosh. Blueberries on there?
Yeah.
What's that other? Is it all fruits and vegetables?
No.
Really?
There's more protein on there.
Almonds?
Nuts. Okay, so that's 2.
No. Okay, so all right, I'll take credit for that. Um, strawberries.
One of them you'd see on when your Super Bowl commercial was airing. There'd probably been this one right before it.
Chicken wings.
No, avocados.
Avocados. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of avocados. We eat tons of blueberries. I eat tons of blueberries. Nuts, and then you said there's 5.
Yeah, so that's 3. Broccoli is 1.
Oh,
And then the other one, which is the protein, was salmon or fatty fishes.
See, I'm a big salmon fan. Everyone cringes every time I order salmon because it's like I don't prepare it at home as much. So I'd rather order fish
Yeah.
when I'm out.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I cringe if my wife orders salmon at a restaurant. I'm like, we can make that at home. That's not something like
Okay.
It's something nice like a steak or
I think there's a caveat though because you're landlocked. Well, you have shoreline. Sorry. Does that count? Gulf of America? It counts now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you got it. Gulf of America.
No, like when we lived in Colorado, I was like, okay, where are we going? I'm not ordering fish if it's questionable because we're landlocked.
Yeah.
But living in New Hampshire on the seacoast, it's like, okay, I definitely lean towards buying fish. Or if you're in Hawaii or California.
I love seafood. Yeah. When we went on that sea duck hunt, we ate raw oysters every night.
Oh, I love oysters. Yeah. Love oysters.
Yeah. But yeah, so fatty fish, good for the brain. I'd say I probably eat salmon like once a month. I'm gonna make an effort to eat that at least once a week.
You said broccoli. We eat a lot of broccoli. Nuts, seitan nuts, blueberries every day.
Yeah, all of these things are delicious, right? That's you're not really
avocados. That's it.
Yeah, okay. Avocados. So I was a little not surprised, but I was disappointed bacon wasn't on there.
Oh, I do bacon every morning for the kids. Bacon or fry it?
Well, I just do it in the cast iron skillet most of the time.
Okay.
Now my wife likes it in the oven.
Does she?
But that takes more time. But it's way less messy, right?
It is. It is just, and it's like less effort too. 18 minutes, 425. But yeah, that's sad that it's not on there.
Yeah. But all these foods are, salmon, blueberries, nuts, avocado, broccoli, all stuff I like. So
the whole brain thing freaks me out because Alzheimer's was pretty deep in my mother's side of the family. So I'm getting to that age as well. I need to start paying attention because my mom always claimed I had CRS, can't remember shit. Terrible memory. And it's only getting worse. And I'm like start freaking out. Is that a first sign of dementia? Anyways.
Or
Tito's. My memory goes up though. When I add Tito's.
Yeah. Well, what you should do is get into hunting, and because wild game venison is very good for you. Lean, not a lot of fat. Although I do like a good marbled ribeye. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm gonna turn my nose up at.
I need someone to take me hunting. I can't.
Well, come on down to Texas.
Come on down. We went gator. We went to a gator farm. I don't know. That was fun. A couple months ago.
That's cool. I shot a gator. The first alligator I ever killed. I got a pair of boots made out of it. It's pretty cool. Great conversation piece.
It's over a year before I get them.
Oh wait, so you but you didn't kill the gator. You just ordered the.
Oh no, I shot the gator.
Oh nice.
I was a good 50 yards away too. Just poking his little eye out.
This was on a farm, or you went on a hunt?
Farm.
Okay. Whatever. You're gonna get some boots. You're gonna get some. No, I'm not gonna turn my nose up.
Absolutely, I'm getting boots. I got a wallet out of it too, somewhere around here.
See, some people might cringe and be like, "Oh, you killed it in a farm." But guess what? You were more connected in that experience of taking the animal's life yourself than going and buying it at the grocery store. So you had the stones be like, I'm going to kill this thing and I'm going to eat it, or I'm going to make boots out of it, or both. I respect that. So it's awesome.
I had to pick the heel stack and the flat nose, and I'm excited, but it's not till next fall.
Yeah. Well, you're going to love them. It's great. You're going to be like, I shot the skater.
Yeah.
Now I'm wearing it. If I shot a grizzly, I don't. I mean, honestly,
Big parka.
I would want to get the full body mount, but my wife is like, we have no more space for your stupid trophies.
No,
No, but we do have space for a Grizzly Adams. Freaking no. What was the dude from
with the beard? He's got a
the
meme.
Robert Redford movie I'm thinking of right now.
There's a meme, and he's like
Jeremiah Johnson, and it's the dude, his buddy, as a grizzly.
Yeah.
Jacket, coat. I want that.
Yeah.
Talk about a conversation piece. People, you walk into wherever, and they'd be like, oh.
Talk about confidence walking into that room.
Yeah. Speaking of that, talking about my age again. I've always told my wife, and she thought this was really stupid, but I wanted a silver, like, Indian, like, cufflink with a turquoise stone in it. And when I waited tables in college, one of my regular customers, he always gave me the best tips. Him and his wife would come in, and he was a big bass fisherman, and his skin was all weathered, and that silver turquoise bracelet always just popped. And I was like, someday I'm going to get one of those. And my wife was like, that's so stupid. Finally, I'm old enough and have enough, I guess, a little bit of expendable income. And I was like, we took the kids skiing, and we stopped in Santa Fe, and we went to the market, and I got one of those. And I was asking my wife, I was like, so which one do you like best? She's like, I don't like any of them. Like, okay, well, I'm going to get that one then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you wear a suit often enough to promote it?
I don't know. I'm wearing that with like a concert T-shirt, my cowboy hat, and boots and jeans.
I thought you said cufflinks.
No, the cuff, like a bracelet. It's like a.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, they call it a cuff. I don't know. It's the only. I have a wedding ring. I have a cross necklace my wife got me, and now I have that, and that's the only jewelry that I own. So yeah. Well, right on. It's been great getting to know you, kid. Enjoyed the conversation. Where can folks follow you?
Oh, what are they? Kid Poteet, KIDDPOTEET. That's all the handles, I guess you call them.
So for latest in space exploration and Ironman competitions, who knows what else? Interesting guy. Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it, man. Thanks again for the time.
All right, Kid. Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Take care.
See ya.